Dr. Meg. This is Dr. Carroll. We are the chiropractors at Chiropractic Family Wellness Center in Scarborough, Maine.
Today we want to talk to you a bit about getting adjusted as a child. And we have been in practice now 30 years, so we've had the gift of seeing so many little tiny babies inside their mama's womb and at births. We've been at the births and been able to have moments later to be able to adjust babies. And then we've been able to watch them grow into adults, and actually some of them are starting to have their own, which is quite a beautiful miracle thing to see. So you might wonder, now a child, a baby, do they come out of the womb with back pain? Do they have a crick in their neck? Some of the common misconceptions about the ability of chiropractic to change the world for these children. And obviously I'm being facetious, but children have the same stresses that adults have, and especially babies. They go from within the womb, where all of their needs are met miraculously. Every minute that they need blood sugar rise, they just let the body of the mama know, and they get what they need. They're in an environment that's safe, that's filled with the ability of their body to grow and be strong. And on that point, I want to let you know that having a mom get adjusted and having her smooth muscle uterus get the proper information to stay strong throughout the entire organ, the entire muscle tissue of the uterus, allows that child to actually work out and gain muscle tone within that womb with strength and equal strength throughout the body, throughout all their limbs. If the uterus isn't getting the proper information from the mama's brain to her uterus, and the uterus is weak on one side or not getting the proper amount of information, that baby might be pushing against something that's just not even there for them. So that right arm might always get against something soft and it doesn't build tone. And a baby might come out then and not have the proper symmetry that they need to raise their head, to lower their arms, to crawl. All those are possibilities because of the shape of the mama's nervous system and the mama's uterus. So that's one piece. But also, as that child is developing within the womb, to be able to have the right development, mama's nervous system needs to be clear. And then think about birth as the big mommy labors and the child comes through the birth canal with a very symmetrical, beautiful wave-like motion that allows the brain to start to be massaged as it needs to do throughout life with breath and movement, to get the lungs to learn and ribs to learn how to move because the baby's about to begin to take in air, which it has not done. All that is part of the way that the uterus, in a very strategic way, miraculous way, contracts from the top down through to the cervix of the mama. That's in a birth that isn't intervened with. And then we have other births that have some things like Pitocin, a drug that's given to mamas to move contractions into a faster position or a faster way. When Pitocin is given to a mama, the uterus contracts altogether. The fibers just contract. So the uterus goes this way to push and push and push so the baby is able to be extracted. It's not a natural way, it's a medically induced contraction, and so it is not in a wave. It does not produce the same focus for that baby's body. The baby's body does get compressed, it does feel pressure before it comes out into gravity, but it's a totally different experience. So those two babies, even the natural baby birth is still laboring through to come out into this world, but a Pitocin-induced birth especially, or other drugs that the mama's body has been given and then comes through to her baby, need to be checked to make sure that they are not chemically induced into a place where their nervous system isn't at full potential. And in chiropractic, we call that a subluxated nervous system. Sub meaning less, lux meaning energy, and ation is in the body. So less of the proper energy from their brain to their body tissue is happening, and it can happen from literally the laboring position.
What about C-section? That's a really easy thing, right? On the mom and the baby?
Good point. So a lot of people think, or I've heard people say, as Dr. Meg is saying, that wow, it's just an opening. I should actually schedule it. Then I can have it done on the day that I want. I can have the baby come out safely, and they just open up my abdomen and the baby will be pulled right out. All those things I mentioned prior about the natural rhythm and how that it gets the baby's body ready to come out into the world are not happening with a cesarean. So literally they go from a place that they're protected to out into the world. So their lungs aren't getting ready, Their bodies actually don't come through the proper flora of the mama's vagina and that area, so that they also don't have the proper antibodies on their skin as they come through. I've actually done a lot of research on this. I had a cesarean with my twins, and I found there's a lot of research to show that cesarean babies oftentimes have a very high level of allergic reaction to environments. So here we are, we've labored, hopefully naturally, we've come out into the world, and there are many, many studies of babies that have been checked by science, and they have been checked to show a subluxation in the very top bone that's right under their beautiful head. And you all know this if you've seen newborns or babies at all, their head is a huge part of their weight. And we found through research that a good number of babies, I want to say 80 to 90% of babies born, have subluxations in that vertebra. And that vertebra controls everything from their eye function, they're trying to see in this world, their breath function to be able to breathe properly while they rest and grow and develop. All body and tissue functions actually is controlled by the brainstem area. So if nothing else, that is a vertebra that Dr. Meg and I check immediately on little ones to make sure that it's open, so the channel of information from their brain and feedback loop from their body can happen on a regular right process.
That tends to be an area also because of its proximity to the ear canal. When there's a subluxation at the atlas, it tends to interfere with draining of the ears, and that will lead oftentimes to ear infections, which are so common in the first 2 years of life. And we have found over and over and over again in 30 years that when we clear the atlas, that allows the ears to heal on their own. And oftentimes we've had children who have been scheduled for ear tube surgery, and they don't need to have it once they get adjusted.
So here we are, we've become a newborn, we're out in the world, and we're having to let people know what we need. So we have to have emotional releases, and we have wonderful parents and caregivers that are trying to figure out, what does that cry mean? What does that position mean? So we're trying to communicate our nervous system. They say that babies' nervous system antennas are so huge, it's the information pathway is so filled that you couldn't even take those messages and make them into computers. They're just too big. And you know this when you see little babies grow literally overnight. You go and look at them in the morning and you'd be like, oh my God, he's totally changed. He'd only slept for 5 hours and he's a different person. So there's a lot going on. In the first year of life, they change so much. So they're changing physically, we see that. Their body is literally creating new cells, which is the job of the brain and the nerve system to create the new tissues properly. So my goodness, you want those to be proper and open and well and getting to 100%. They are chemically changing. In the first 6 months of life, they don't even have they don't have full liver function. Their detoxing is happening literally through the work of their mama. Their mom is giving them breast milk, which is allowing them to have a full immune system, but their own liver isn't even functioning up to peak performance yet. It's developing. So all that chemistry and all that change is happening on a regular basis for them. It needs to be properly done, so that's why we check babies. You make sure that that's happening well. As the mother's diet changes and the milk changes, the baby needs to be checked as well, and the mama, to make sure it's a synergistic experience, so the mother takes in what she needs, doesn't deplete her body, and the baby gets what they need. Development in terms of their structure, physical structure, their heads are heavy as heck, as we just described, so being able to pick up their head comfortably creates the new curve in their neck. That's an important curve for how they will be later on in life, and have the nerves come out and supply their heart, their lungs, their arms, their hands, the rest of their body. And if that curve isn't properly produced because they're not able to pick up their head properly, or it's out of balance, it creates imbalance in those tissues. They then begin to pick up their chest. They learn how to find strength in their upper body. That's causing the upper body's curve that's between the shoulder blades towards the back of the body. And then finally the lower body as they begin to stand up and be in weight. We check all of that to make sure that there's good development, that there's good transition from one to the other. We instruct and talk to parents about some research we've done about, when do I put them in those little things where I can keep them in one position and they sit on their bum and just play with toys that are all set around them? And then we have a conversation about, when is it right to load the nervous system and load the spine into one of those little city toys? I have to tell you, as a mama, I wanted to put my twins in City Toys way early, and it was not right timing, and Dr. Meg helped me with that, and it's not the right thing to do, but you have to know when is right. You know, those swings that when I was a little person, we'd stick a swing in the middle of the doorway. Jumpy swings, and we'd put them in there and we'd say, go for it, before they could even have any weight, and they're bouncing on their feet, and they're bouncing on their spine, and then flying, and they were happy, but what they did to their spine that I'm now checking at age 20 may not have been the best thing to do. So we have a conversation about, do you think the baby's ready? We know the parents sometimes are ready, but is the child ready? So that's just birth to like 1 or 2. And then it goes on, and it goes on to early stages of finding their voice and the nose and the tantrums. Oftentimes in here we have babies that come in that have been in daycare and they've been really good babies all day. And they come in for their adjustment and they come out here and they're like, wah! Because they can finally express what they've been suppressing all day long. And we explain to parents that that's healthy. That's what the nervous system and their brain needs to do. They need to feel safe in an environment like this where we accept them for their expression and their release. And it's been amazing to watch that happen.
So on a later video, we are definitely going to address why you would adjust a teenager and preteen, teenagehood, going through puberty, all of that. Those are really critical times where you also definitely want to make sure that you get your child adjusted, and it'll help you.
Yeah.
We're speaking from experience here.
Yeah.
So we thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.